If you've ever been mentally tired, stressed, and felt like no amount of rest suffices, then this book is for you, The Science of a Restful Mind. I bring you lessons from this book to help you figure out the best ways to really rest. By the end of this episode, you will handle exhaustion and stress really well. Most important, if you learn some of these lessons, you'll be happier and conquer life challenges like a pro.
Welcome to Bookmac Podcast. Start learning every day to become the best version of yourself.
On this podcast, we talk about why this book is emphasizing your brain and why you should rest on our bed. First though, I want to ask you a series of questions that will help you find some truth in life even if it is hard to swallow. Did you ever notice that regardless of how restful/active your day was, you still felt tired? Poorly, you are just too tired for no apparent good reason, and your exhaustion is indefinite. No rest or amount of sleep is enough to make you feel fresh and vibrant again. Alternatively, you won't be able to keep focusing, you overthink, leading to frustration and sadness. This state of mind can be tormenting, especially when rest doesn't seem to relieve the exhaustion, and even after doing a lot, you don't feel a sense of accomplishment. Kaya, the author of this book, offers scientific principles with which you can solve these problems. Most people believe that resting means giving the body a break, right? So we opt for sleep or maybe lounging on the couch watching movies. Does this help? Yes, but just a bit. The main cause of fatigue is usually not the body, it is more than often the brain. You are not tired because your body is, you are tired because your brain no longer functions optimally. It no longer puts things together, no longer sees maneuvers, no longer sees actions and results. It is no longer useful, and so you feel tired. This means that just allowing the body to rest does not do much. We rest the body because the body needs rest through sleep, and we are all guaranteed to sleep, but in most cases, we forget about the mind. So the question is, why can't mental fatigue or physical exhaustion be relieved the same way? The writer says mental fatigue is not the same as physical fatigue, hence the reason resting the body alone cannot help the brain recover. If allowed to accumulate, mental fatigue starts to affect the body and, if at its worst, it can translate into major health issues like heart diseases. Sometimes, stress does not really lie in physical exhaustion but in the bundle of problems that keep on accumulating in the mind, and, not knowing any other way of combating the stress, the brain starts to operate on the body in a negative manner. One very common scenario in this regard is stress affecting the stomach. Actually, the real start of stress is in the brain, in the thinking process. In fact, we don't have one brain in our body, but a number of brain-like centers. The heart is one, and the stomach is another. Below the navel is where parts of the body that are associated with negative or instinctual feelings are located. At the very base is the sexual instinct, above that is the survival instinct, a matter of hunger or the will to live. Above that level lies the ego in such emotional responses such as anger and stress. All instinctual feelings are located at or below the navel. On the other hand, the positive emotions, known as elevated emotions, reside above the navel, located around the heart, the throat, and the brain. That is why stress affects the stomach more often, just a bad feeling in the stomach or problems with the digestion. The clusters of brain neurons, responsible for stress or survival instincts, are located there. Now, back to our book. Why does the brain, which doesn't seem heavy, consume so much energy? Although our brain weighs so little, only about 2% of the body weight, it consumes quite a deal of energy, about 20% of the general energy. Default mode network, or simply DMN, is an area in the brain that takes in the most energy by amount in the brain and becomes active when the brain relaxes. What is DMN? Simply put, it is that area of the brain which works when a person is not consciously thinking or when an individual is daydreaming, not being attentive towards something in the environment. In short, it is an energy sucker. Now you may ask, if the brain is most active during daydreaming or inattention, does that mean that we get tired quickly? Yes, your brain consumes more energy when specifically in those states. DMN encompasses many parts of the brain, like the medial prefrontal cortex, precuneus, posterior cingulate cortex, and others. It's more at work when you're not actively thinking about something. Scientifically, it is said that DMN consumes 60 to 80% of the energy in the brain, quite a huge percentage. You do realize how big that is, because even at the time of sitting and daydreaming, it doesn't mean that the brain is taking a rest. Actually, it might be the other way around. DMN goes on with very intense work. Now, you might begin to realize that if you want your brain to recover and feel energized, you have to focus on something, right? Correct. It is upon navigating DMN that we are left with something many people find challenging: meditation. Not by achieving a state of vipassana, but simply by trying to find anything to focus upon so DMN can rest. This can be your breath, your stomach, every step you take, feeling your presence while being. That's focus. This is what world-class leaders tend to engage in. For instance, if you could track the daily routine of successful people in terms of meditation or focusing, you would get to know why they emphasize the same so much, as this is what makes a person's brain function at its peak level. This is a technique used by business leaders all over the world, such as Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, Jeff Weiner, CEO of LinkedIn, John Mackey, CEO of Whole Foods Market, and Evan Williams, founder of Twitter. Even the likes of Google are advocating a program for employees called Search Inside Yourself that proposes attention to the inner world be classified as a serious activity. The simple reason is that these people understand the importance of resting the brain and know that focusing is an excellent way to rest it. So, if on your day off you spend time scrolling through TikTok or social media without focusing on anything, that's not resting. In fact, it might make you more tired. If you don't believe it, try scrolling through TikTok for 10 clips. So you will be feeling like 1. Waste of time, 2. Cloudy brain, and 3. Regret. These are how you will feel you have wasted time in life after doing an activity you did earlier in your DMN. Now, this should give you a better understanding of how you can be doing a lot in the day and still be feeling drained by day end. If you want to work getting out of this state, then the culprit is the brain, which is the DMN. This is a default mode network that can explain why you are feeling so tired every day. If you want to give a rest to your brain, try not to strain the activity of DMN. It's inevitable in life sometimes to be on autopilot, unless of course, you put your attention on every single moment of life. Habits in the subconscious are connected with DMN. If you spend the greater percent on autopilot or just go with the flow without figuring life out, you will feel that life is not worth meaningful. Meaning focusing helps one sidestep the DMN activity, hence one controls their brain's activity properly. Daydreaming is one of the main reasons why people get mentally burned out. For instance, when you're doing nothing and your mind is wandering aimlessly, not thinking about anything, you'd get into this state of unexplainable fatigue. Daydreaming can be lessened by focusing. This is one way to reduce DMN activity. Nowadays, depression is the product of this because people focus on many things. Indeed, the human span of focus has greatly diminished. In the old days, whenever one wanted something, there was always that great demand for time and effort to obtain it. But these days, you press a button and it comes to you. You don't know something, you Google it. And when you Google it, you often end up browsing through other people's problems, causing your attention to drift. The harder it is to direct your attention, the more active the DMN gets. The more active the DMN gets, the more depleted you feel. When you are more tired, and if that fatigue doesn't relent, sadness hits you. What are you thinking? How it all just comes through one after the other. People with depression are those who suffer a lot of negative thinking, such as if I could have done that at that time, or if that thing were changed, then that would be really great. When one experiences this kind of thinking all the time, it gets really tiring. And when they become tired, their ability to ward off such negative thoughts decreases. Very likely, this is the toughest state you have ever been in. Now you must be thinking how to fight this state. We start by preparing at the most basic level, rest by doing nothing. This is the beginner level. If you are on a break, don't pick up the phone and start scrolling. If you are resting, then just rest. For some people, this might be a really big dissatisfaction at the beginning, so let's start very slowly, by not touching our phones after we wake up. Doesn't matter what you have to check. If you want to check your bank balance, do it after the workout or in the afternoon. You will not find one piece of marketing content, there will be hundreds or thousands. If you start your day with your phone, then your DMN starts using energy scrapingly, and tiredness is a sure thing. Practice in how to do nothing. When eating, eat. When driving, drive. Attempting to do too many things at once will sap your focus and your energy to a great degree. The human brain was not designed to do multitasking. It was created to emphasize doing one thing individually to the greatest extent. Hence, during crucial work periods, decide on what you will do one after the other until completion. You don't want to let sufficient time pass without a plan and then suddenly find yourself multitasking without your realization. Eventually, nothing becomes productive, and from the brain to the body, everything becomes fatigued. Believe it or not, we've had a natural defense against fatigue our entire lives: sleep. While we sleep, our brain manufactures hormones or chemicals that wash away tiredness and anxiety. It is no mistake that we are at our greatest evolutional potential when we sleep. It is therefore healthy to sleep deeply. This is the reason why sleep is important. The author goes ahead to say that sleep is one of the two most potent ways to clean the brain. We are species that need to have 8 out of 24 hours spent in sleep, so sleep can only be very important yet. If you're able to gain a quality sleep regimen, then you can eliminate over 50% of the tiredness in your life. There's no question that sleep is really an indispensable factor of good health. It's the best medicine, better than any pill in the universe. I love how they say it's like the cleaning solution for your brain. The importance of sleep research keeps on scaling. What is good sleep? How can good sleep be cultivated into a habit? Following are the practices that put you to sound sleep. If you follow them, you will enjoy sleep, believe me, because when you wake up, you will feel fresh, as if God has showered His blessing like nature to you. Firstly, determine a consistent time you go to bed at night. I'm not saying no one can sleep or getting up at a specific time, but get a clear schedule. If you ever work at 9 a.m., then waking up at 6 a.m. would mean that I wake up right there with you also. And if you wanted to be hardcore, you'd wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run. This is something I do myself, even without the book's suggestion, but it really helps the brain to realize the rhythm of the biological body clock. Outline clearly when you intend to get to bed and when you are going to wake up. Second, avoid taking uppers like caffeine. These days, coffee is the lifeblood of office workers like us. The truth is that caffeine is no problem unless one drinks it after 2 p.m. or for some people at noon. I can't consume caffeine after noon, since it interferes with my being able to sleep. Especially those sensitive to it, they know how horrible it can be just to be lying in bed after consuming it, awake. Don't let the caffeine rev up your brain and, as a result, it won't let you sleep. Third, how do you deal with stress that comes along before bedtime? Write it down. One of the most potent ways to release tension before you sleep is by writing about the various sources of stress. Stress is another reason why the brain is not at rest. Have a notebook and pen with you and jot down your concerns before bedtime. Fourth, rise early in order to see the rising sun. Another big influence healer in our lives is the sunlight, which regulates your sleep and wake cycles. We have been dependent on sunlight since the time of our ancestors. Sunlight does tell you, okay, it is morning. Come on, get up to hunt or gather. When the sun sets, go back home, relax, and sleep. When the sun rises the next day, you are fresh again. That's the power of sunlight. Fifthly, keep in good physical condition with a moderate amount of exercise. A good deal of physical fatigue begets a sound night's sleep. People who work out at night experience the difficulty of sleeping on nights when they don't exercise. That's because a proper amount of physical fatigue brings on a good night's sleep. Avoid napping too long. For most people, if you nap for more than 30 minutes after 3 p.m. or during the late afternoon, what we call the witching hour, it will break your nighttime sleep. If you do nap, a watch to remind you is quite helpful. For principle, try to skip eating before bed. We use tremendous amounts of energy to digest food, and when you eat before going to bed, the best you can expect is not to sleep well, and the worst is acid reflux. Another tip, get out of bed when you wake up. This teaches your brain that bed is associated with sleep, not lazing around and frittering. When you wake, rise straight away. These 7 strategies will enable you to eliminate fatigue. First, apply directed breathing. If your mind is engulfed with numerous thoughts, just be with your breath, and you will have reduced your tiredness because you will have more energy to carry out the important jobs diligently. If you are too much in a daydream or your mind is too stressed, and you feel really tired, then, when you are walking, just try to be focused. If you are just walking, be focused on your feet as they interact with the ground or look around and just be at the moment. When the stress starts to affect your health, basically, my only advice is to meditate. By meditate, I mean sit and be in the moment, be there in a room so filled with only the present. If ever you've never practiced, it may seem like a very hard thing, but if you do it consistently for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, just by sitting and being present, you will see tremendous changes. Other way, when you want to stop repetitive thoughts, you have to manage the monkey mind. Say you are stuck with repetitive worrisome thoughts. Try to imagine you as a train station and those repeated thoughts as the different trains. The train halts just for a short time period, after which it moves. It's completely up to you whether you want to board it or not. Try to see you are not boarding the train, trying to see you as a platform. Let it pass. Repeated thoughts can break into sleep and happiness, and in this, the rest of the brain is disrupted. So, for instance, when you are angry, do this. If someone makes you angry, made you angry and you can't avoid it, follow these 4 steps. Step 1. Recognize it. You first must be aware of the fact that you are angry. Don't see it as something that is a part of you. After all, you're just feeling angry, but you are not anger. You are not your feelings. So, you're not a slave to your feelings. Second, accept. Admit the fact that you are mad and ready to forgive. It is also acceptance, first to accept the fact that you have just stepped on a bear trap, for example. He must first come into terms that he had stepped on it. Third, investigate. Just look into what's going on within your body when you're upset. Do you have tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or a burning sensation in your head? First pay attention to your body and only then to the external circumstance. You can even pay attention to your heartbeat. The fourth is to let go. Do not hold on to the anger. This will come naturally if you do the third. Let go of the anger because it is not your concern. It is always better to resolve a situation when you are calm. Thanks for watching till the very end. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, share, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. Leave more questions and comments in the space below if you have any. See you on the next one. Goodbye.